It's a cloudy morning here in the mountains of southern Appalachia. Matt and I have been up a long time, got a lot of work done already. We've mowed all the yard, weed-eated, done all that stuff, the trimming back that we do every week in the summer. He's been working on the driveway. He's been scraping the driveway. When you have a dirt driveway, especially, or a gravel driveway, especially one as steep as ours, keeping it in shape is an ongoing problem. Lucky for us, Matt has a scraper attachment that goes on the four-wheeler, and so it makes it fairly easy to keep it in good shape. We haven't always had that, so in years past, sometimes it would get pretty bad. We've always had four-wheel drive vehicles, and I used to joke one winter when it got really bad that it was like we lived in Batman's lair. You know, no one could get up here unless they had four-wheel drive, of course. But it prevented people from coming to our house, which of course I was just joking. But it's very nice to have that attachment now so that Matt can keep it in better shape. So as far as the garden stuff, I've been going around picking some tomatoes this morning. I picked some beans and shared with Granny, some okra, and some other little things that we're doing. We need to do the cabbage, we need to harvest the potatoes and see how they're doing. But there's two things I want to do that I just suddenly decided that I wanted to try. Our rattlesnake beans in the back that have done so good, they are beginning to kind of play out. You know how beans will do, the bottom part starts dying out and the growth is all on the top, so they've reached that stage. And then also, they're suffering some bug damage. The little yellow furry looking bugs are getting on them, and also of course the Japanese beetles. So typically we just let them just go and die, you know, just whatever happens, happens. But I was thinking about the bug damage because a lot of people in the videos have been asking how we control bugs, and mostly we would use neem oil and then the method of hand picking like the Japanese beetles off that I shared. But I remembered one of my friends who was a farmer, he told me a couple of years ago that kind of when I asked him, I was asking him about squash bugs, which thankfully we've never really had a problem with. I hope we never do. But he said, well, what he found was that it was so hard, and of course he was like an organic farmer, so he was not going to use any kind of pesticide. What he'd found was it was so hard to combat them once you got them, that for him, the best thing for him to do, since he was actually, that was his job, so he was growing the garden every day, that he would just leave those that had been overtook. I mean, he would let them produce all they would, and then he would harvest as much fruit as he could from them, as much squash or zucchini, and then he would tear the plants up and take them and discard them somewhere. You know, not in his compost necessarily, but I don't know exactly if he burned them or what he did with them. Anyway, but then he would just plant squash, another succession of squash somewhere else. And yes, they would find it too, but it would take longer. So I was thinking about that, and I thought I want to try that with my rattlesnake beans because it's a really small, fairly small bed. So today I'm going to pull all those up, and then I'm going to replant them with rattlesnake beans. We still have, this is the beginning of July, so I still have time during the growing season for them to actually grow and make. So I'm just going to try it and we'll see what happens. I'm also going to try, I'm standing here by my cucumbers on this side here. You can see these are looking so good, but the ones on the other half of the trellis, they've been producing like crazy, but they're kind of looking pretty bad too. So I'm tempted to pull them up and to replant those. This side's still going strong, still getting cucumbers, and the other side is still producing cucumbers, so I'm iffy about it, but I'm just so curious to see if this actually works, so I want to try it. I want to try pulling them up and replanting and see how that goes for us. Hostas are one of my favorite flowers, and I'm lucky enough to have a lot of them around my house. Really blessed. My aunt shared with me years ago, and then over the years they've just multiplied until they've about overtook us. But I really love them. I love them even more. This year I found out that they were edible, and so we enjoyed eating those fresh little tender shoots in the spring. If you missed that video, I'll link to it so you can watch that. But they're a really beautiful plant just for their big huge leaves and the way they kind of flow out. And there's different varieties. There's variegated ones. There's kind of a gold color, a blue color, and then the green ones. Most of mine bloom a purple bloom, and then after the bloom goes away, you can see what it ends up looking like. These are the seed pods. Now I trim these back because they're kind of ugly, all in a big row, just kind of leaning here. And over the years, I've discovered that they will actually grow hostas. I would throw these, once I gather them up, I throw them either over the bank or out in the woods, wherever I'm closest to, I throw them out of the yard. And then over the years, I noticed, hey, there's hostas growing there. Well, it's where I've thrown the seeds over the years. So these actually will propagate new hostas. If you have hostas, you could try my method of just throwing them down somewhere and see what happens. You realize not many people carry a knife, but how many people carry two knives? It's pretty interesting.
Well, that's not particularly why I do it. I mean, it's, I don't know, one knife's
for one use and one's for another.
one's this belt knife is stouter. I mean, you can be a little bit more abusive to it and not hurt it, whereas a pocket knife, you know, you can't beat on it like you would this one. I just know where that belt knife's been. It's clean.
Right.
And the pocket knife is not.
Yeah. So Matt was trying to dig out glass out of his finger that's been in there for a week and a half that he can't get out. He got glass in it at work when he accidentally shattered a big table. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't the table. It was a table with a layer of glass on the top, like a protective piece.
It was a big table. Big table.
And it's one of those freak things where, you know, you could maybe drop something on it and it would crack on top, or even run into it and maybe break a chip out of it. But it was a freak thing. Matt just leaned something against it and it just exploded. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it went all over the shop. There was glass 40 feet away.
Yeah, it's a wonder it didn't go in your eyes or your arms or something. Yeah. But it did go in your finger.
Yeah, I did get a piece in my finger, but that was after
that was when you was cleaning it up.
It was a big enough piece of glass that it just shattered in a million little bitty pieces, and we swept it all into a pile and shoveled it into a big 50-gallon trash can. But it was a big enough piece of glass that all those little pieces in the trash can, it took 3 men to lift it and get it dumped. So it's probably, I don't know, the table's, I don't know, probably 5 feet wide and 12 feet long, and it was like a 3/8 thick piece of glass, so it was big and heavy.
What do you think, you got the glass out?
I don't know, maybe I dug down into the meat. And I don't know, we'll just have to let it, give it a few days and see. If not, I'll dig in there a little deeper.
So I'm excited about replanting the cucumbers and the beans and see what happens. We've never done that before. We usually just let it all go till it just dies out. I mean, we do a little bit of succession planting, like in different places, but as far as tearing something out and replanting it, we've never done that, have we?
I don't think so.
It gave me great joy to tear down those beans, though, because it had those little yellow bugs on it, so I took great joy in tearing their little playhouse down.
Yep.
The cucumbers, not so much. I was kind of like, am I really doing this? Should I really tear these out? But they were starting to look, I mean, they were dying out.
Right.
But they didn't have any bugs or anything, but they were dying out. But the beans were definitely being infected.
Get much off these?
I picked all the peanut beans. I got quite a bit off them, a basket full. And I didn't see any full ones on the white half, or the greasy beans, I mean, so I want to wait another day or two before we pick them.
They many on them?
Yeah, could see some. I didn't see any yellow bugs down here, but they will be down here. They'll be coming.
Yeah.
The Japanese beetles, while I don't like them, and they do hurt the leaves, they don't just destroy the plant.
Right.
But those little yellow ones, they just eat voraciously and just destroy them.
Yeah, they bore into the stem.
Yeah, they just...
And beetles just eat the leaves.
Yeah, so I did try to get, I'm going to try to get some lime, though, and try putting lime on them and see what that does, if that does anything for the little yellow beans. But right now, these down here still really look beautiful. But those little yellow buggers will be down here, too. Mm-hmm. They are every year.
Mm-hmm. I've been eyeballing that one. It needs to eat.
Eat it whole. Put it in there and eat it.
You don't want some of it?
I'm thinking about a popsicle. What you want, peach?
No.
Coconut, raspberry?
Raspberry.
Let me go get one. Actually, I lied. I got grape or pineapple.
What you want?
I don't care a bit. On our last garden tour, several people shared that their gardens was just kind of a total loss because of the weather, because of deer. Someone said there was a storm coming, their fence blew down, the deer got in. Somebody else, the deer found a hole and got in. And then a lot of the drought that the whole country's been facing, That's so heartbreaking, so disheartening. But it is kind of the life of a gardener. I can't imagine if you were a farmer and doing it on a large scale. But even a home gardener, if you're not fighting the weather, you're fighting the bugs, like the yellow bugs. I remember one time, years ago, you remember this, Matt, I think we were already married, or either about to get married, but cows from over the mountain over in Pinhook got out and come across through the woods and got in Pap's garden.
Yeah, I remember me and him was growing that garden. And they stomped it out too.
Yeah. And what they didn't eat, they just, of course not knowing they're cows, trampled it. They probably come through those woods and then come to his garden and thought, ooh, oasis after being in the woods. It was one of Pap's old buddies growing up with that actually it was his cow, so Pap didn't tell him, but somebody told him. And so I remember he come over and apologized, and what he brought Daddy something.
He brought a whole pallet of fertilizer.
Yeah, something. I knew something. Yeah.
We tried not to take it, but he left it anyway.
So even when you know, in those days there was not a deer here at all. Rarely. Yeah. But, and of course Pap had to worry about every year, we worried about coons getting in the corn, and maybe what else, a rabbit or something like that, crows.
Yeah, crows would pick the new corn.
Yeah, but he would have never thought about cows. But so you can't never tell what you'll be facing as a gardener. But most people that really, if you like to garden, unless you're just doing it and it's horrible, it's kind of, you just kind of roll with the punches, and even if you get wiped out in one area, you just try again the next year. You know, you just decide that you're going to do it again next year. Maybe you'll do something a little different. Maybe the weather will cooperate. I guess it's hope kind of springs eternal for gardeners most of the time. This has been a good year for our garden.
It has. Been hot and dry, but
somehow that's better than, like last year was so wet.
Yeah, if it's super wet, you just can't do nothing.
And we had like that 2 weeks with rain every day and no sunshine, like in June. And then that sets up, the rain's okay, but then if you have no sunshine to dry it all out, it sets up all kinds of situations for disease and just poor growth and things rotten. I remember one year, Corey and Katie was about, I don't know, still in elementary school, not even middle school. And you remember it rained like that a lot. And the garden, it was a different kind of rain though. And the garden actually did pretty good. But it was like everything, whether it was a squash or a melon or whatever, was just like it was just full of water somehow. It was just like, I don't know. I mean, you'd think that looks pretty, and then you cut into it and it'd just be totally full of water.
Yeah. Mushy.
Yeah, just mushy. No flavor. So you certainly can't ever tell about how the weather's doing or what it's going to do to you. And of course you can't control it. So lots of people have asked, how do we keep the deer out? Because there are so many deer here now. But we're lucky that in the little holler here where we live, there's several dogs that just kind of roam around, and so they keep them at bay. The same for groundhogs and even rabbits, really. Every once in a while we'll have a problem with a rabbit in the early spring, but not usually.
They're bad to eat the peas.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, I ain't going to put up a whole lot for no deer eating my garden.
Yeah, Matt's not. Matt wishes that they were in his garden so he could do something about it.
This ain't something I'm going to put up with much.
Really, other than insects, we've had a little slight rabbit, turtles. Turtles will eat your tomatoes and stuff if they can reach them. Melons, if they're laying on the ground, turtles will take a big bite out of them. But mostly because of those dogs, really. Just insects yeah. Which in the case of the little yellow bean bug will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, they will.
But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful about that lime. That's another thing as a gardener to be hopeful for. Wouldn't that be a miracle if it worked?
Well, it'd be good for the soul too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you wouldn't feel bad about eating it. So we're sorry if you've been suffering garden woes, and we hope that things improve, especially the weather. We hope you get some rain. Hope you get some sunshine. Some people say they've got rain and no sunshine. It almost always every year I wish I could like send some of my rain or take somebody's sunshine. If we could just swap it out, that'd be great, like neighbors. But of course we can't do that. So we hope that your garden woes improve. And as always, we hope you'll just keep dropping back by to help us celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot about making a garden. And I would say about being hopeful for what, whether I'm hoping the lime will work, hoping the beans that we planted today and the cucumbers will come on and do as good as the first planting of them. So I feel like we live a very hopeful life here in the mountains of Appalachia. And then I'm really missing out on Carolyn and David's because I absolutely know what happened is I did not plant them because not one come up, and then I replanted them and they all come up. But anyway, by that point, because they were behind, I planted everything else, so I put them at the very back over there, and they're just not doing good, so they've not even got one tomato on them. And those are the best ones. I have to rectify that next year somehow. But I know that must be what happened, is that I labeled the cup and just never planted them.
Sounds to me like you need to eat some vitamins. So you can remember what you're doing.
I take vitamins every day, thank you. Maybe I'm not taking the right ones.
Maybe you need to add something to it.
Yeah.
Good for your memory.
I know. The one David and Carolyn's on this side is, you can see how tall it is. Surely we'll get some off it.
Yeah.
Those are the best tomatoes I've ever ate in my life.
Yeah, they're good. Very good.
The sun golds are good.
What are those?
She don't remember. They planted them for so long. She don't remember.
I thought they were sun golds just talking about.
No. Remember last year right here, those little tiny orange ones?
Oh, yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they shared with me. These yellow ones are sun gold. And then up here in this bed, those little bitty red ones, that must be, maybe there's a red sun gold. Because those, I planted sun gold. Those are red. Yeah, last year I know the yellow is what we planted. But I think the seeds I got this year from, I know the seeds I got for sun gold, I ordered off Etsy. Just somebody had saved them, and they're red. But they're good. Those are really good too. Yeah. They're actually better than the yellow. So that was a good, happy thing. It was just I was expecting them to be yellow and they were red. But they're actually have a brighter flavor. Wonder why the Tommy Toes have that better intense flavor.
I don't know, but they do.
They do, yeah. They're so good.
Yep.
Of course, the Cherokee Purple's hard to beat too, though.
Oh, yeah.
That one ripe Italian paste I was saving it. I had it in the house so we could eat it. And I just hadn't noticed on one side there was a hole, and then in the process a big worm crawled out of it.
No.
Yeah. Gave that one to the chickens, worming all.
I'm sure they like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for supper.
I don't know. Last night's was pretty good. We could do that again. Tim's corn is so good.
Yeah, it was real good.
Could just do that.
Yeah.
Guess we could ask Austin and Corey to eat with us. How you like my new hat?
It's pretty.
Wanted to be like you.
Yeah. Mine looks like crap.
No, I don't.
I'd like to have another one, but just keep wearing this crap.
I actually got you one and I forgot to give it to you. I don't know if you like it or not, but I'll show it to you.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, where's it at?
It's in the living room. I mean, in the bedroom. I don't know. It's somewhere. I'll have to find it. Show it to you.
Did you actually buy it, or did you just thought you bought it like you did the seeds?
No, I actually bought it because I bought it with this one. Well, come on now, see if I can find it and show it to you.
Yeah.